Welcome to today's podcast. Hello, hello. I am preparing some steak here. These are a delicious looking big cut. And so I am really behind the scenes. I am working really hard to not jump through the phone and do a rally cry, a rally call. I am doing my absolute hardest, my best to not jump through my phone that I am talking to you on and uh doing getting a megaphone and going to everyone's door and saying, "Hey, I've got the magic wand for you. I've got something that is going to bring you something amazing that is going to help you eliminate burnout. It's going to help you to stop going along with the status quo and getting rid of the worryings that we have been told and getting rid of the boxes and the the beliefs that we have to fake it till we make it, that we have to look the part, that we have to settle for less, that we have to deny the truth, that we have to bypass things." And I'm here to tell you something. I don't know about you, but I was taught to bypass truth. I was taught that if I said things, like if I spoke a diagnosis, which I was given a few very recently, I was given a diagnosis in the last 3 years, and also very, very recently, diagnosis as to what is the culprit of my health issues, low energy, low fatigue, and it's not what I thought. In fact, I had absolutely no clue that I had any of that stuff till I got the diagnosis, which makes sense why I've been feeling a little lousy from time to time throughout my life, but also the issues reared their ugly head 3.5 years ago. And I'll never forget where I was. I'll never forget the date, April 25th, 2022. That's when it all started. My health issues, health journey reared its ugly head. And I believe there comes a time in our life when the same thing happens to us in every area and it shows up unexpectedly. And what can it look like? Well, it can look like chaos. It can look like uncertainty. It can look like health issue, diagnosis, medical stuff. It can look like all of a sudden getting a 60-day notice to move out of your house because the owners have passed away and having to literally hightail it and find a place, and your life is just turned upside down in the midst of health issues and all the things, right? Fatigue and not feeling well and working a full-time job and being a parent and being a spouse. Yeah, that literally did happen very recently about the moving. I'm actually sitting here and talking to you in my new living room. Yes, I love it. I love connecting because I can connect with you from anywhere in the world, literally in any place I want to. Car, store, shower if I wanted to, pool, skiing on the slopes, right? Anyone can press play. Sometimes things rear its ugly head and it looks like chaos and uncertainty. And the things that we are taught to do is to bypass, to let go, to deny the truth. Those aren't question marks. Those are exclamation points. And today is your magic wand of, I've had enough. I'm done. I'm done playing the part. I'm done with performance. Today is your magic wand of a rebellion that is actually not a bad word. Growing up in the land of foster care, I was placed with a lot of parents that carried a Bible that were very abusive. They did a lot of religious abuse and also physical abuse, mental, emotional, and it was met with shoving things down my throat that caused me to believe that I was a bad kid, that I was rebellious and stubborn, and that that's bad. I was shamed, I was chastised, I was beaten, abused, and I only share that for context. The people that were supposed to take care of me didn't. They let me down. And when I share parts of my story, I can share it in a way now where it doesn't bring trauma to other people, because that's the actual truth of it. Abuse happened because I was labeled rebellious and stubborn and hard-headed. I was told I was hard-headed many times growing up in my life, and you can imagine what that did to me, how it made me see myself and what it caused me to believe about myself. Having that diagnosis of that even costed me many years of the freedom of knowing my true identity. And it costed me time, energy, costed me health, costed me time. Yeah, I did say the word time, but I'll say that again to accent. When people repeat the same word usually twice in a sentence, I learned this about the scripture, okay, about the Bible. When you see the same word repeated twice in the same scripture or even in the same chapter, it's because there's weight there. So when I say time was lost because of what I'm telling you today, that's what happened. Years of my life gone. Years of my life sitting in a fog, feeling like a zombie. Why? Because I had to perform. I was literally thrown in the valley of performance to prove that I was capable, smart, and that I was a good girl. Because if I didn't, and if I didn't speak a certain way, if I didn't act a certain way, I was then seen as horrible, terrible, shameful, unholy. I also learned how to play the part of religion. I learned how to deny the truth of how I was feeling because over my lifetime, I was made to feel like that was bad. You don't feel well and you don't have the energy today? Okay. It just means you're lazy, and it just means that you're not doing enough. So let's get you into burnout mode so you can get up and push yourself to more exhaustion. I used to apologize for taking naps because I was taught that that's terrible, that naps aren't good, even though the first family that we were placed with the first 10 years of my life, they made us take naps, and I didn't really like it then. But now I'm a fan of taking naps. Being an adult, I get it, right? Like, naps are wonderful. Don't get me wrong. But back then, it wasn't treated like a luxury. It was more of a forced thing. And I get it. Kids need naps, right? They really do. Like, if you have kids, like, trust me, a toddler definitely needs a nap. I don't know what it is, but if they don't have a nap and a snack, it is not a great thing for parents. I don't know what it is, but that's how we get when we're tired as adults. We turn into toddlers too. It just looks different. Sometimes literally all that's needed to calm ourselves is a nap and a snack. That's it. Like, that's what Elijah needed, right? In the desert. And I'll just leave that right there. So rebellion. I literally have been rebellious my entire life. Since before I was born, I believe God knit that in me in my mother's womb. And the reason why is because the messaging that I have, I just got goosebumps. I got a fire in my gut talking to you just now, which means that this message is for you. Since before I was born, I was given rebellion. It's actually a gift. It's not a curse. It's not a curse, period. I was made to believe that my gift, my gifting, is a curse, and that how dare I act a certain way or be a certain way, because if I look that way, then I'm not going to look good, not going to look like the nice girl. I'm not going to look like the good Christian girl that I was raised to be, with rules and cages. And I was not put in a cage. I'm not using that as a literal sense. Okay. It was a forced ball and chain, if you will, to play the part as if rebellion was bad. But what if I told you that having a rebellion, now I'm going to get passionate now. I might sound loud and like I'm yelling, but I'm really not. This is my purpose and why God put me on this green earth, because it is my message. It is my heart. It is my mandate. It is my life. It is the very guts. Sox alarm was going off. It is a Burnout Rebellion kit. And with that, you get to learn how to, you partner with me in becoming free to find you again, free to put yourself at the top of the list, your vision, what you want. It's free to come back to who you are, remembering what your favorite things are, your color, the food, the drink, the dessert, do you like warm days? Do you prefer cold days? Do you like the leaves changing in the seasons? Do you prefer sand? Do you like glitter? I prefer not glitter. Please do not bring glitter into my home. I can't stand glitter. But do you like glitter? Do you like Snickers, right? Do you like chocolate? I am a dark chocolate connoisseur. I'm not much of an alcohol gal. Also, I believe that it's because my birth parents were alcoholics. The alcohol was their choice, which is why by the time my twin sister and I were 1 year old, we were removed from their home and we were never placed back. So I don't like alcohol. Yes, it's okay now and again, but I don't need it. I don't desire it. In fact, I'm so grateful that I don't have a taste for it at all. I could go without it. I'm okay without it. I really am. But dark chocolate, sunshine, hummingbirds, butterflies, birds, the sounds of birds, the beautiful sky, the rain. I love the rain. I love doing nothing. Like, you know how, okay, wives, if you're listening, you have a husband. Okay, this is now, I'm not an expert on men. I read a book called The Queen's Code by Alison Armstrong. But I'm going to tell you something. Men literally love to do nothing. They literally do nothing. When you're asking them what they think about and they say nothing, the literal truth, their filing cabinet is like empty. They're like, yeah, nothing. No, literally, because to do nothing is actually worth something. And to do something, there's a whole thing to men that do things, but there's a reason behind it. Women are wired differently. Thank goodness that we are all wired differently, right? So men are not hairy girlfriends. Okay, let's just put it that way. But men, when we can understand a little bit more, we will be less likely to, well, chop off their balls and serve them back to them for breakfast. Yes, I did say all that because it'll help. And yes, it goes in context with what I'm sharing, okay? So, but what happens when we go through a rebellion is we are saying no more. No more to doing the same thing. No more to speaking the same way. No more to treating people the same. Treating people differently. Why? Because when we love ourselves, we can actually love others. Loving ourselves first allows us to love others, and that is a form of a rebellion. And guess what? It is a rejected message. And why is it rejected? Because a lot of people say, love your enemies, love others. Yes, but it also says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I'm paraphrasing. You can go look that up. I do make reference to the Bible and to God and to Jesus in my podcast because I am a believer of all that. Yes, I am. And I'm not here to shove it down anyone's throat. I'm here to share, the greatness about it. But the part that's missing, how can we love other people if we can't even love ourselves? Loving ourselves means setting boundaries. Loving ourselves means saying no to conversations, no to gossip, no to venting to people who love to complain. Ugh. Loving ourselves means putting great nutrition in our bodies. That's a rebellion, by the way. Why? Because many people, including medical professionals, I work in the medical field, so I'm going to touch on this for a second. Many medical professionals do not have a rebellion. They go with the flow. And they also do not take care of themselves. Sleep is put on the back burner. Nutrition is put on the back burner. Sugar and carbs is what's reached for, coffee, caffeine. And yet these same medical professionals, some of them who have the degree, which help the patients, are the ones talking about nutrition. And it's like, yeah, but you don't look like you are a believer of nutrition. So why are you telling me about that? And yes, I think this way. I talk this way. Why? Because it's a rebellion. It's why I created the Rebellion Burnout Starter Kit. Burnout Rebellion Starter Kit. It's a rebellion. It is the magic wand for high performers, high achievers, leaders, and business owners, and yes, career professionals to speak truth, say the thing, find themselves, realize how smart and capable you are, realize that your vision goes in the top. You go at the top of your to-do list, not your meetings, not your job, not your kids. How can we take care of our household if we are not taking care of ourselves? Yes, but my kids need me. Yes, but if you don't give yourself the oxygen mask first, again, unpopular message, unless you're in an airplane, if you don't give yourself the oxygen mask first, how can you give your kids or your family what they need from you as your best self if you are putting yourself at the end of a to-do list? And the question that I ask my clients that come to me, okay, and even when you buy the Burnout Rebellion Starter Kit, which by the way, it's $10, which by the way, you get lifetime access. But when you start pressing play, you're going to realize that a lot of the things that you have been hearing about why you should put yourself last is actually incorrect. I give you some tips in there to start your journey of having a rebellion so that you can walk away from burnout and performance and proving. I was taught to bypass how I feel physically and mindfully and energetically. I was taught to bypass that with fake, with denying the truth, with sounding great. And because I grew up in the church, I was taught to sound religious, to sound great. Well, I sounded great because I could quote scripture, but I was actually a loud bell that was annoying. It sounded great and it sounded faith-filled, but actually what I was doing was denying truth. We're not taught to deny truth. And it doesn't mean that we're not faith-filled or that we don't have enough faith or that we lack something. I used to believe, I carried the belief that my faith sucked if I talked about how I felt. Why? Because I was taught that growing up in foster care. I was taught that I had to deny truth because when I started speaking truth, the labels were thrown on me by social workers and therapists that I was forced to see, that I was troubled and angry. And a lot of what I experienced was that they're not trauma-informed adults. They're adults who needed further training. And I learned actually within the last 4 years. Within the last 2 years. I have it written down in my journal, the date and the day that I said this. I will no longer bypass the truth, and I will no longer deny the truth of anything ever again. And I will no longer give excuses to anyone who has caused me any harm in any way, shape, or form. And when I started to implement that into my life, I started healing. Even though I still feel off on most days, right? My energy level, it's part of the healing process. Physical healing, it comes, but there's also things we got to do. I can't just sit here on the couch and, beat myself to death, burn myself out into an ash heap or an ash pile and expect myself to thrive and be optimized if I am not helping myself to heal. But yes, scripture does help that, yes. But we also need to do our part. There's a part of faith. It's not about sitting and doing nothing. It's seeking, finding, asking, knocking. That's what we do. the answers will come, the healing will come. And it doesn't matter how long it takes. I wholeheartedly believe that yes, my body will be restored and revitalized much better than it's been my whole life. I believe that. But I'm also on a journey that is very grueling because of what's going on. So I'm not going to lie, having a diagnosis is not fun, but I can't deny the fact that I have it, but it's not my identity. There we go. So the rebellion, it prevents burnout. It's the magic wand that many high performers and high achievers are looking for. And some of us, I'm speaking about myself here for a big moment. I used to fear saying the very things that I'm speaking to you about today. I used to fear speaking truth. I used to fear being bold. I used to fear it, even though I was born that way. But it's because I had to work through a ton of beliefs. I was told that my voice was trash. I was treated that way. That was the belief that I held. I believed that my voice wasn't powerful. But yet I have a track record of people listening to the sound of my voice. People's lives changing. People's lives getting transformed. Now I don't have all the explanations, but all I did was say, God, use me, help me, heal me. And guess what he did? Well, what's not really acceptable out there is teaching other people how to walk in a rebellion of their own and know that it's entirely 100% okay to do that. Because when you flip the tables, something powerful shifts in your life and you no longer are a part of the status quo or the boxes that get handed to you and put you in. Oh no, There comes a point in our life, there comes a time where we have to learn to let go of past things that we have been agreeing with and believing. And it's time to switch some things up. And it's not popular because a lot of people love to not stand out. And why is that? Fear of judgment, fear of criticism, fear of being ousted, right, by the community. It's a truthful nature. It's what happens in large communities, large groups. You don't abide by the way everybody's doing something. Now you're the outcast. But what if that's actually not a bad thing? What if being an outcast is a beautiful superpower that you just didn't know was actually good until today? Now, does it mean you get to go be a jerk and a schmuckwad and go tell people off? No. Does it mean that you get to go, be a jerk to people? No. It just means you start knowing who you are so that you can get back to leading, back to speaking, back to doing the things without performance and without burning out. That's what this rebellion is. And I raise up and I partner with and I lead other beautiful high performers, high achievers, leaders, career professionals, and business owners through their own rebellion. And it's beautiful when they come back and they tell me. I have clients that have told me long after we're done coaching, I have been setting boundaries and it's beautiful. And I feel more confident and I feel more energized. Their words, not mine. And it's like, what? You mean to tell me that people are afraid to set boundaries? Yes, they're afraid. Boundaries are actually a beautiful thing. That's another act of rebellion. And not a whole lot of people like boundaries, but I'm here to tell you boundaries are so beautiful that yes, you might look like a rebel, but I would rather be a rebel and have peace than go along with the flow and lose my peace. Because for so long, I could cry when I say this, I lost my peace. I didn't know who I was. I lost myself. Also, I didn't know I was biracial until the age of 13 when I moved into my first all-black foster home. I had no idea. And then talk about an identity crisis. I had no idea who I was supposed to be because I wasn't black enough. I was too black. I don't sound black. I don't even know what that means. This is stuff I was told. Well, you don't sound black. No, I sound educated, and I also sound like I can send an email. Okay, I sound like I can talk to human resources. I was just I was put in different environments, but it doesn't mean I'm better than anybody or anybody's less than. I'm not less than. It's just that's how I sound. I don't know. I mean, we all sound a certain way, but it's beautiful, right? I actually got the last part about, well, I sound like I can send an email and talk to HR from another Black woman who's also biracial who did a reel. And so it's interesting. So because I didn't know that I was biracial, it also played the part which wreaked havoc on my identity, which costed me time, costed me my peace. And because I didn't know who I was shaky. I allowed people to tell me how to be, how to do my hair, how to show up, how to sound. Oh, yeah. And to not play the part of what everybody wanted me to be was seen as a negative, rebellious thing. But guess what? That is actually beautiful. It's a gift. Rebellious, stubborn, not like everybody else. You want to know why people don't like the fact that you're not like them? Is because it actually shakes up their light. It shakes up their comfort. It shakes up their status quo, and people don't like that. Why do you think families get mad when there's a black sheep in the family or a goat? Why? Because it shakes up their comfort zone. Nobody likes to have their comfort levels shaken up. That's why when a confident person enters the room, there's two types or groups of people, and I'll start closing with this, that see the confidence and they're like, yeah, I want to be, there's something about that person. And then they find out who the person is, they get to know the person, and they find out that they're a beautiful, amazing person, right? Because confidence enters the room. Then you have the group of people that's terrified of confident people. And so what do? They trash talk, they gossip, they speak negatively. Why? Because their comfort level just got shaken up. Why? Because it's something in that person that causes people like the light. You bring the light. That's what happens when you're confident. You bring the light and you no longer question who you are. But when you go in the environments of people who don't know who they are, there's the group of people who might not like you. I've had this happen. I'm also speaking from experience. People that didn't even know me that made my life a living hell in my career, all because they didn't like me because of my light. True story. I was like, what? Isn't that interesting? And it makes sense. It makes sense as to why, after all these years, why I was accepted by some and rejected by most. Now, I don't know if that's a great statement about me going into foster care, but I can say that sorry, I got a little distracted. I can't say that that was the reason why I got into foster care, why I was placed in foster care before I was one, because of my light. Because the choices of my birth parents had nothing to do with my light, had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with them. So kids, honestly, this is a whole nother podcast, but I'm going to plant this seed. There are some judgments that get spoken by well-meaning people that will ask the most ridiculous question, because I was asked this. What did you do to get into foster care? Because there's this judgment that people have that foster kids deserve to be removed from their parents. And that's the biggest judgment that actually can harm people and harm kids, and it harms their spirit. It did mine, because I didn't do anything to deserve it. I did absolutely nothing. And there are things, yes, that do happen to us that we don't deserve at all. But it's what we do with what gets handed to us. I'm here to lead you through rebellion. That's it. That's what this podcast stands for. the name is the Hype and Flow Studio. I'm thinking about changing the name to Unmuted because that just like hands down rebellion theme. Rebellion. Could you imagine having a world full of rebellious people that are living a life where they are themselves without burnout, without performance? So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here when you press play. Thank you for downloading my voice. Thank you for implementing anything that you hear. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of my community. Thank you for being a part of my messaging. Thank you for choosing yourself, choosing to live differently. And thank you for implementing anything that you have. And with that, that's it. Stay tuned for the next podcast. And are you ready to get the